Mm-hmm. Good afternoon, and blessings. I tell you, thank God again and always for this opportunity, to share knowledge with my people, lest we perish for lack of it. And that's Hosea 4:6. I thank my crew, Lula, Sheila, and Juanita, my promo crew, Elijah, Helene, and Chastity, my engineer, King Norm, for allowing us this space, and my co-host, King Professor Terry Benjamin. Of course, all you know me. I am Ruby Williams Shivers, your unapologetic amateur, still looking for experts in Africanism.
Yes.
But they're coming, I tell you, and to my family out there, my amateurs and experts, thank y'all for keeping court with us. I sure appreciate you. And I say that honestly because what we got to remember today is that there's no better place or no more serious thing than to learn about yourself. In light of all that's going on today, we got to know who we are and where we come from and whose we are. We are indigenous African people, and we see what we see, but we sometimes don't get beyond what we see. Particularly in this climate that we're going through now, the political climate, we're seeing a lot of things that just kind of, we don't even know what's going on. I hear that some of our black men are voting for who, 35.
That's real
Those
crazy.
kinds of things we have to be, that's what this show is about. My show here is to try to alert us, jolt us back into understanding that we are unique people, very unique, in that we've come through some unique and unprecedented times, 400 years of slavery. So even with what's going on today and with the politics or trying to keep us so-called democratic,
Yes.
and we are questions about our black men. They say they're voting in ways that just shocked me.
Yes.
Well, I know it's not our black men, maybe a few, but even with the few, and we got to always understand where that is coming from.
That's right. Yeah.
It's
propelling that?
right, what propelling that. And once we understand our situation, and that's what we try to do here on this podcast, it try to bring us to a point where we know that we're somehow uniquely different from any other group.
That's right.
That we've been through 400 years of genocide.
That's right.
And when we're coming out acting like Clarence Thomas, or even acting like the men who say they're voting for Trump, we got to put it in context. We got to put it in perspective. We got to know that these are not just people who are thinking on their own. We've been traumatized.
That's right.
So we'll come from you. And I don't pretend to be no psychologist. I don't know mental degree or anything like that. But common sense tells me that when you act in ways that some of our people are acting, we're born into generational trauma.
That's right.
Yeah. What do you expect? And that's all it is. That's why I'm trying so hard with this podcast to jolt our people to start demanding that we're seen by all through different prisms. It doesn't mean that we were born differently. No. It is just it really is by no means genetic. The genetic just means the 400 years of slavery, Jim Crowism, and racism. In other words, genocide, if you will, actually have placed us in a category that's unique
Yes.
unparalleled to any other group on the planet.
That's right.
And until we understand that ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
we never will understand the Clarence Thomases of the world. Not even will we understand black men voting for Trump. So when we come here each Monday, 4 o'clock p.m., and try to impart some information that we know going to be beneficial to our people,
Yes.
specifically.
Right.
You know, we do it seriously. We do it because we know that it is so important. Now, we have a guest we are expecting to come on. I don't know if he's here yet, and if he's not, we're just going to go on with the program because we're talking politics today.
Yeah.
I don't think it's politics. I think it morphed into, something else,
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. Well, I think right now
But
it's beyond politics because now it's a question of life
saving
or
the
death.
democracy.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
saving the
right.
so-called
That's
democracy.
right.
What little bit of it we have.
That's right.
So when we're looking at situations now that just kind of frightening,
That's good.
but I think over the last couple of weeks, we've been given some relief, or
That's
we
right.
think anyway. So what you think, Terry? What's going
doubt
on?
about it. Now, the thing that we talked before we went on air about the fact that it's not even been a month
Right.
since it's what I call a sea change
Mhm.
from Biden to Harris and through the DNC.
Mhm.
It's sort of taken off.
Yeah.
So I think we're at the point now where there's hope.
Mm-hmm.
Before there was hope, but it was very dim.
Yeah.
But now the hope is getting brighter and brighter.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we need to hold on to, grab
Right.
on to.
Yeah. Definitely.
And let that take us to the next level.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful.
Well, right, and we don't have to be in love with any one particular person, any one group, or any one party.
Yes.
But we have to see what is in our best interest.
Yeah.
See, and we have already had to do that since we were brought over here from our homeland of Africa. We have to go for what is in our best interest.
I think what's happening too, when I was watching the Democratic National Convention, there were a lot of people who were independents.
Mm-hmm.
And there were white men for Harris, there were white women for Harris, there were Republicans for Harris. Now, with the Republicans, they're still Republicans, but they realize that really they have to look at things in a different way.
Right.
And so she has this alliance of different people. Now, after she wins the election, they're going to have different views that will not be compatible, but they realize that in order to have that choice,
Right.
we need to make these maybe temporary coalitions, these temporary alliances,
Yeah.
because we're looking for a greater good.
Yeah. Yeah. So now, not that anyone asked, you are to be the advisor, but if you were advising our vice president today, what would you be your advice in going forward?
Well, my advice would be not to slack up, to keep momentum going, keep the pressure going on ourselves, on the allies, realizing that voting truly matters.
Right.
It truly matters, and this is one that you can't sit out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Let me ask you something. Now, what is your opinion on our vice president, if I might ask?
Well, hey, of course, and I'll answer. My opinion has always been that I always felt that she was in the shadows looking for her opportunity.
Okay.
And I think her opportunity is here and now. And I think after hearing her speak, after hearing her sister speak, her husband speak, that she is ready to take her place. And I think it's beyond politics. I think it's history. I think it's destiny. I think this is really what her whole career has been sort of building to. So really, we're in the shine of her spotlight.
Right.
And I'm really excited about this.
I'm excited too. Let me ask you another question. What is your opinion on how Biden was dismissed? I mean, has that been an issue with you?
It's not an issue with me only because I realized that it was politics. But the only thing that I was concerned about was that when he was asked to move aside, that they would go into a primary type situation where they would try to get other people lined up to take that presidential
But I think
spot.
that was very quickly dismissed.
It was missed because they knew if they did that, they would lose all the women that would be behind Harris, and so they dismissed that, which was good.
Yeah.
And what happened is that because I was a little nervous because when Obama didn't come out right away, I thought he was
Well, I
going
think
back.
that was part of his decision
Yes,
to
yes.
step down,
Yes, yes.
and that she would come and fill in.
Yeah,
I think he made that clear
Yeah,
to
yeah.
them. That's what I
And-
understand.
but it worked out well because again, the thing is now we have opportunities to sort of reset the table.
Yeah.
Because things were going with Biden. Now Harris doesn't have to go with Biden. She can do her own thing, which I know that she will.
Yes. And what you think of being the first? That whole
my
concept
goodness.
kind of bothers me. But she is the
Well,
first.
she's the first.
Yeah.
But remember with Obama? I mean,
He was the first.
I was telling my son, I said, I never thought I'd see the day when we have a black president.
Yeah.
We've had that, and it's gone. And then I said, I never thought I'd see the day when we had a female president,
Right.
a black female president at that.
But
And
when
you know what?
that is
but
something.
I'm ready for that. My mind is ready for
Exactly,
that.
but
I
you
can
hear
see that.
people proudly say the first, and I'm thinking it sort of insults me in a way when you think about it,
Yeah, it is,
because the inference is that there are no other qualified black. All we see is the shining object,
That's right,
the
right.
first. Don't take the inference. I mean, we don't take in the inference
No,
that
no.
that implies that where no one else was qualified before that person.
Yeah,
And see, in my work history, Terry,
Yes.
I was often the first. And one of my
Me as well.
one of my white counterparts asked me on one such assignment, didn't I feel proud for such an honor?
Oh, my goodness.
I said
Like you
no.
weren't qualified.
Yeah, I said no. I feel insulted. I said, am I supposed to believe that I'm the only qualified black? There were no other before me
No,
that could handle this assignment?
That's not true. Yeah.
And of course, typical me, I wouldn't leave it there. I went further. I said, the saying is that when blacks get their first, whatever, they have to be 2 and 3 times more prepared than those that hold in the position
That's
that.
right. That's right.
They left me alone after that.
Because they had to reply.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you're the first, and it's always been said, especially in terms of Harris right now, is that she will be the first, but she won't be the last, because it will be easier for young black boys and young black girls to say, well, I aspire to be a president.
Right.
President, 'cause
And when we're
yeah,
looking at
yeah.
her, we have to think about who came before, like Shirley Chisholm.
Yeah, right. I go back
There-
to Shirley Chisholm.
Yeah, and even before her, there were folks who could have filled the position.
That's right.
The point I want my people to always know, we need to be very proud and very serious about promoting a person like the vice president, but don't allow ourselves to think that she was the first because she was the the only qualified. She's highly qualified.
Yeah, Shirley Qualified.
Probably more qualified than any of them running. But she's not the first qualified and not the most qualified. Our people should have been in these positions before, but we just weren't allowed.
Because
And
I
that's the
even go back
important
to
thing.
Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Yeah.
He was there. He was his health is not what it should be. Don't say he had to wheel him out in a wheelchair, but they gave him his props because again, when he ran for president,
Yeah.
it wasn't unheard of.
Right.
But he did that, and I always say that he paved the way for Obama.
Oh, he
And
did.
Obama paved the way, and Joe Biden paved the way for Kamala Harris.
Yeah, we're standing on a lot of shoulders,
We are,
and
we are.
no doubt about that. And we just got to move it forward. But I'm just very excited
Yeah.
about this time, and I know it's only God's will that this is happening.
Yeah, but
because
that's
no
why,
one could have dreamed
Yeah,
it.
but then again, I think that's why it's so important that we get the proper education because this whole thing with Project 2025, and I've seen I know Joy Reid has been doing great things.
Oh,
with
yes,
that.
yes.
But there's also some Sunday programs that they actually go chapter by chapter through the Project 2025.
Yeah.
And one of the things they want to eliminate is the Department of Education. And this
Right.
is even more so necessary because I teach my children and my students, I want you to be a critical thinker, okay? I can give you something, but I don't want to make you think what I'm thinking or make you agree what I'm agreeing. Well, let's have a debate. Let's have a discussion.
Yeah.
because
Well, that's not
critical
even their
thinking.
that's not even their intent for that reason. They just want to eliminate it because they don't want us
They
to
were
learn.
propaganda.
Afraid if we learn too much, in particular who we are and what we can do and what we have done. that might upset the apple cart.
We're powerful people. We're proud people. We're people of genius. To get through all this stuff.
Yes.
And to be where we are.
Yeah.
And now what's happening, we have the different races coming together, because you look at Kamala Harris, and she's black, she's Asian. Yeah. So again, and that's why I can't see why this election will not be a landslide, because I always feel, and maybe I'm being overly optimistic, but I always keep on thinking there's more good people than bad people.
Yeah.
I think it's more of us who want something real. We don't want something that you can put in your pocket. We want something that you can put in your heart and into your legacy. So I'm thinking that there's more people of goodwill who want this country to be all it can be.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking for a landslide myself, because that's the only way this guy will shut up.
Yeah.
And even then he won't shut up.
I don't think he's gonna ever. I don't think he's gonna ever shut up.
But we'll have the law on our side.
Yeah. Well, we got to all get out there and promote our own interests. And I know sometimes our faith-based people, the churches and things, can't do that because of their status. So what do you think should be the involvement of faith-based people?
Well, again, we spoke about this before. I know back in the day was a separation of church and state. But the thing is, although your pastor can't tell you who to vote for, we know because of their teachings.
Yeah.
And I told you before, when we spoke before we went on camera, that there were two speeches that really electrified me. And one was Reverend Al Sharpton, where he says, joy, 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 coming in the morning. And that's from, that's from Psalms 35. 30 verse 5, where it says, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. And this was a minister, so he preached a sermon, didn't Reverend Raphael Warnock from Georgia.
Oh, my another
and he said something here that I just wanted to throw out to our family here. He says here, a vote. Now, this is a minister. He's not telling you who to vote for.
Right.
But he's telling you what a vote is. He says here, a vote is a kind of prayer about the kind of world you want to live in.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
A vote is a kind of prayer about the kind of world you want to live in.
Yeah.
And so we know what kind of world that orange guy.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I will not speak his name.
You don't have to.
But I want to live in a world where there's joy. Where there's joy. Oprah. And it's funny with Oprah, she is not a Democrat, she's not a Republican, she's an independent. But she said with her arms and her purple outfit, she said, joy, joy, joy.
Oh, yes, she did. Oh, yes, she did.
And I got it. Joy.
Well, we have been a people of faith, and we've always had God on our side, and we always believed. But and that's why it always just boggles the mind. I don't know how we know powerful people co-opt less powerful people, but how did the Republicans co-opt the Democrats in this morality thing? They have never been moral, and now we concede to them being the ones who have been more. They use that term. Even the Republicans, bona fide Republicans. I'm not talking about the Trump. The bona fide Republicans say, we've always been moral, and we've upheld the morality.
They call themselves the law and order party.
Yeah, law and order. They've never been law and order. I'm not sure how we allow them to concede to something like that.
But I think what happened is that they got this taste of power. Yeah. The power, and they wanted to hold on to the power, and they figured, well, we can't get it the right way. Well, we can maybe cheat a little bit. Then they found a man who had no morals, who had no vow, but he was about power. And they sort of hitched their pony to his wagon, thinking that, okay, if I stick with this guy, I get the power. But they're paying a price for that, because this man is totally out of control. They give him a script to follow, and refuse to follow it.
Yeah. Yeah, and what I'm trying to say, they really had never had any morality. As far as I'm concerned, that would outdo ours.
That's right.
Oh, I see. I've got our
guest is
here, and I'm just so pleased.
Yes.
But I tell you, I'm just so pleased. My guest today is the Reverend Leonard Grayson. He's been here before.
That's right.
Now, good afternoon, my brother. Good afternoon. I knew you would be the perfect guest to help clarify this thing we have in front of us called politics.
Yes.
But I think I think it had morphed out of politics into saying a so-called democracy. Now, what say you? You think we are going to find ourselves going back or moving forward? That's what Terry and I have been talking about. We see a new thing upon us, and it's just something that no, I don't guess anyone had expected over the last 3 months, say, but it just came upon us. And what say you about where you think we're going?
Okay, you ready for us, brother?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Okay,
first of all, I apologize for being a little late. I was out of the country.
Okay.
I got back on Saturday night. I
Oh,
had
okay.
services yesterday, and I was packing and everything. And for some reason, I thought I had it for tomorrow. So
No,
I
it's
apologize for being a
today.
little late today.
Okay, you're on
Well,
time.
let me welcome you in properly then.
I knew the subject is close to her, but we just
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
afternoon, my brother.
As I said before, I don't know if you heard me, but I said we knew you would be the perfect guest to help clarify this thing we have in front of us called politics. But I think it
yeah.
had morphed out of politics into, say, saving a so-called democracy. Now, we think we're going to find ourselves, what do you think? Are we going to find ourselves going back or moving forward?
Well, we're not going to find ourselves going either way.
Okay.
We are going to go the direction we choose to go in. So whatever direction we go in is not going to be an accident. It's going to be because we decided that that is the way we want to go. Let me give you an example.
Yeah, please.
My daughter was talking to me about the homeless housing, I should say, issues with rent going up, building all of these housing, building all these apartments, especially around the train corridor. Rent's just exploding, right?
Right.
So she says, what are they going to do to fix it? And I said, who are they?
Who are they?
Yeah.
Like, who's they? Like, you're waiting for someone to come to your rescue?
Uh-huh.
You're hoping somebody else fixes or addresses your concern, right? They is you, right? So whether we go forward or backward is determined by us.
That's
It's
Yeah.
not
That's right. That's right.
some external force dictating our outcome, right?
Yeah.
If we go forward, it's because of us. If we go backward, it's because of us. If we go right or left, it's because of us.
Us.
And to clarify for the young, particularly, you say your daughter asked that. Sometimes my grands ask me the same thing, and I try to clarify it. I said, I'm not a psychologist and certainly don't have any mental degrees around here, mental health degree.
Yes, yes.
But I say, I tell them like this, born into generational trauma, what do you expect? And that's all it is. That's why I'm trying so hard, Reverend, with this podcast to jolt our people, people to start demanding that we're seen by all through different prisms.
That's right.
You know, it doesn't mean that we were born differently. It is by no means genetic, certainly. It just means that 400 years of slavery, Jim Crowism and racism, genocide, if you will, actually have placed us in a category that's unique, unparalleled to any other group on the planet. Until we understand that ourselves, we never will understand the Clarence Thomases of the world. Not even with we understand the black men talking about voting for Trump. Or our kids who would ask us questions, like that. They just don't understand that there's a generational trauma that is affecting us. And everybody should read the book, Traumatic Slave Syndrome. And they realize when we're coming out with certain questions and words and you think we should automatically know the answer, it's because we're coming from a different perspective.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
We've been through so much that we don't even see the forest for the trees
That's right.
sometimes.
Yeah,
And it's
right.
not necessarily our fault. That's why with this podcast has been so important that every week we come in here to wake our people up to believing that what you see is not always what you see. Look beyond your circumstances, because you see me not doing like with my black men. I'm defending them because I don't think there's that many that voting for Trump, first of all. But even the few that will,
That's exaggerated.
they are coming from a different perspective. They'll put themselves in this society to think that everything they see in the society relate to them. But we are not relatable to a lot of things that going on in the society. So we cannot go with Trump just because he may give us a dime here. He didn't give us anything anyway. I don't know where that came from. But a lot of our black men
put
are
his
saying,
name on somebody else's check.
yeah, on somebody else's check, and that's the only thing they're going with. Well, he give us a little bit of money. That is not true. He
Yeah.
didn't give us anything. But yeah, my brother. But
That's what say you.
yeah,
Well, listen, I understand your premise. And I get that. The trauma, right, of slavery, the trauma of what they call ACE, our adverse childhood experience, which is
because we wouldn't be
current,
acting this way.
right, to one's lifespan, right? Those issues and those concerns are real, right? They have to be addressed. They got to be confronted.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we also have to admit we are not in the same situation as many of our forefathers, our ancestors were in.
But I think they knew better. I think even they knew better than what we know. They were not as traumatized. Well, I can't say they weren't as traumatized.
Well, they were very much
Very much
traumatized. Yeah.
traumatized. But at least we have been inundated, in addition to being traumatized, we have been inundated with lies and more lies and things that just
We've
get
been
in your brain.
bamboozled.
Yeah. So
Well,
now
I mean, let's be real. Social media has allowed us
That's
to
right.
get information without doing any fact checking.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
And so we're getting information. We are using that information or with in some levels with authority as if we're speaking a truth,
Right.
Yes,
Exactly.
right? Without even understanding where that truth came from.
Yeah.
And so, the world of misinformation through social media has really captured us. I know that as I prepare, as you know, I teach at Kane University, an adjunct professor in the Department of Public Administration. And one of the classes that I have for this semester is community engagement. Like, how do you engage in areas that you feel need your attention
Right.
or your contribution, right? Going back to my daughter, who's they, right? There is no they. It is us, right? And in spite of the trauma that we do need to deal with,
Yeah.
right? We do need to deal with the trauma, but we can't miss the boat because of the trauma.
Right. Got to always put that out there first, that they will know there's a reason now. We're not going to use that not to do anything. But
Right,
as long as you
exactly.
know that it's not genetic, it's not something we're doing different from other people. Because sometimes they look at themselves and say, well, now, if we're not doing what other folks are doing, something is wrong with us. And I don't care how much you tell them, oh, no, you're just as good as anyone else, blah, 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 blah. If they don't know the dynamics behind why they are acting.
Yeah.
Can't tell me a Clarence Thomas can't wonder sometimes, why is he such a fool? You know what I'm saying? And if I could sit down with him one day and say, you know what, Clarence Thomas, I'm not a mental person, but I'm not a mental health expert. But I can tell you, you're not who you're supposed to be. And it's something that's around with your brain, and it's a generational type of trauma. He might didn't get it. But even with his high, he went to prison or one of those other high establishment. But he may not know that.
Right.
Haven't done. But it's just so good, though, that we're moving in a direction that we're moving in terms of the politics of what's going on now.
Yeah, well, I mean, we hope so, right? Like,
Yeah.
for example, we have this new race, quote unquote, if you will, with Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump,
Right.
right? Now, when we deal with politics, right, you gotta understand where you're dealing at, what level, right? You got your local politics, which is your municipality, the city that you live in, township that you live in.
Right.
Then you got county politics,
Yeah.
which everybody lives in a county, right?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
has some level of oversight over municipal governments. Then you have state politics,
Right.
right? Which is statewide, which means it may not directly affect your immediate region or municipality,
Right.
but it's a statewide effort to address an issue or create a response to an issue. And then you have your federal, right, government,
Yes.
which addresses a more larger picture. And so we've always got to be clear, right, what area we're trying to address.
Right,
Right?
right.
Is it local? Is it county? Is it
Yeah.
state? Is it federal? Because they all have their different parameters. They all have their different uh, policies and ideologies, if you will.
And that's a
That's
great point you just brought up because we got to begin to understand that they say politics, all politics are local,
Yeah.
but we got to begin to make our people understand it. Just as important to look at the local elections as it is to look at the top election because the folks who locally determine these four things, they determine the where, the how, the why, and the when.
Yeah, yeah.
What you gonna get, how you gonna get it,
Right,
when you gonna get it, and so they are very much a part of, should be a part of our thinking. We go when we think
yeah,
politics, right? You local
yeah.
politics. I know I was going to ask you about that. How important it is for us to just be as concerned for our local
Well, I
elections
mean,
as
they're
this one.
they're independent,
Yeah.
but they also operate synergistically,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Like a lot of money comes into state from the federal government with federal guidelines that also gets transitioned to the county and the local level,
Right.
right? And so you have to be aware, right, of what it is you're trying to do and understand where whatever funding is coming from. That's
Right.
why federal government is so important. Like in now in the presidential election, right? You have Kamala Harris, right? And I don't even want to use names.
Okay.
I want to use platforms.
Right.
Okay.
Because if you remove the name, then you're not talking about an individual. You're simply talking about what the platform is, right? So you take, for example, the $370 billion that was allotted for Inflation Reduction Act, right? Moving from dirty energy to clean energy, so to speak, right? Climate change as we know it, right? There are things that the Democratic platform is pursuing that impacts us on a local level.
Right.
So you can't ignore what is going on the federal level. It's just that the federal level is broad.
Right.
You want to concentrate on what or understand what is going on there because it trickles down
Right.
to the states, right? Then the states trickle down to the local level. So I mean, it's multi-pronged. You got to pay attention, right? And one of the things that we will be discussing in our class that's coming up at Kane in terms of community engagement is what are you interested in, right? Everybody plays a part somewhere.
Yeah.
Everybody cannot play a part everywhere. Right? So you have to discover what it is in your particular region, right, that impacts you, that you are willing to contribute to. And I deal with a lot of students that are saying, well, I'm going to be moving. Like, so all of a sudden what's going on, right, they suggest is not in their interest because they plan on moving.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to them, when you get to when things trickle down, regardless of whether you live in New Jersey or Minnesota or Utah, you still have to be aware that some of the federal issues do trickle down to local levels everywhere.
Right.
And then sometimes you have to understand what your particular local level is. But whatever it is, if you don't have a mindset to engage and contribute, you're going to lose no matter where you go.
Right.
But Pastor Grayson, Professor Grayson, it might be helpful for our audience. You talk about community, and your church is True World Community Christian Center. My question to you is, what do you mean by world community? What does a world community look like? That might be helpful.
If you're using our name is True Word Community Christian Center, which means true word, right? Truth, right? At our particular church, we are trying to get away from the dogma of the past and the traditions that may be outdated of the past or may be laid aside for the moment. When I say lay aside, traditions don't always go away, right? I remember when wearing pants not at full length,
That's right.
we joked about it. We called it what, high
Yeah, I
waters.
wanted it.
But today,
Fashion statement.
that's the current
Attire,
dress,
right?
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So
Mm-hmm.
things are not necessarily thrown away because they're outdated. Sometimes they just sit on the side,
That's right.
Right.
right?
They
Bell
come
bottoms,
again.
It
right?
is.
Bell
Sometimes
bottoms was
they come
gone
again.
after the 80s.
Coming back.
Yeah,
They're
they come
back
back.
now,
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. They come
right?
back.
So traditions aren't, people think that when traditions no longer fit the moment,
Right.
means that traditions are gone. They're not
No,
gone.
not at all.
Sometimes you have to address society
Mm-hmm.
where you are.
That's right.
And so, true word, we try to deal with that. We try to tell the truth, right, about church impact,
Okay.
Right.
right? In the 60s was really when churches had their last significant, I think, national impact,
Okay.
right?
I
During the
hear you.
civil
Yeah.
rights movement, the church had a national impact.
Mhm.
We no longer have that anymore, right? Why is that? It's partly because we are so caught up in tradition that we're not addressing the needs of the of 2024, which Martin Luther King himself said that if we're not careful, we're going to end up turning into a social organization. He said this 50 years
Yeah,
ago,
that was some time ago. Yeah.
right? So true word is expressing what sometimes I find myself in trouble for,
Oh yeah.
but addressing certain current realities
Mm-hmm.
that have locked the church or distanced the church from what's going on in real life today,
Right.
right? So that's about true word.
Well,
True
the
word,
church has
really,
always been
we
a.
don't get in politics,
Mm-hmm.
but we do engage in platforms.
Okay. Yeah.
Like,
That's what I
what
wanted.
is this platform?
Yeah.
What is that platform? There's no way that I'm going to get up on Sunday morning and talk to people about a better life while somebody who is in control of the rules and regulations around their life, right, take charge. There's no way I cannot be engaged in that. There's no way I cannot say anything. If I'm talking to you about progress and I'm talking to you about getting your life in order, well, there are some pragmatic and practical things that you have to do,
Yeah.
right? And part of that is voting.
Yes.
Okay.
Part of that is being aware of who is your leader in terms of starting with basic council people,
Right.
Yes.
starting with basic mayor, starting
Exactly.
with
So they.
county freeholders, right?
Exactly.
That's where it begins.
Yes.
So,
So
right. So if you're
that's the
unwilling to really
community part of it.
engage,
Then that's the community part of it.
excuse me.
That's the community part of the situation.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about when I say local, right?
Yeah, local
Local
poli-
starts on your block.
Okay, I got
Exactly.
you. I got
And it's
you.
important to know that you
Thank
need
you,
to be
thank you
just
for
as
that.
current in your local politics as you are of the, we sometimes vote for every 4 years,
Yeah,
and we
yeah.
forget to vote locally.
In the
But we
primaries and
need
the
to,
sections.
primary, we need
Yeah.
to understand that that is extremely important because the local folks are the one that determine a lot of what goes on in
Right.
your life. They
Yeah.
determine what you
Yeah.
have. They determine you where you can get it.
Yeah,
They
okay.
determine you how you can get it and all
I
that.
see
So
what you're
it's
saying,
not
yeah.
just the every 4 year thing. You need to vote.
Right.
We need to
Absolutely.
concentrate.
But here's where your story for me comes in the understanding of the issue of trauma that has affected us,
Right.
right, because of our history,
Mm-hmm.
right? Let's be clear that slavery 400 years ago, which began 400 years ago, didn't end yesterday,
Exactly.
right? There
That's
are
a good
many
point.
more
That's a good point.
social, let me just say, systemic issues
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
concern,
Yes.
right, that are racist in its outcome,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
We still deal with that every day.
Yeah.
We still deal with it, and it has to be addressed. It has to be brought up.
Now
I
you
mean,
just
we
said it
have to
has to
know
be
where.
addressed.
Yes,
Yeah, it
yes,
has to be addressed, and unless it's
That's a good point.
addressed,
Yeah, it gotta be
as
addressed.
any other major catastrophe.
Yeah.
I've always make the
It's
analogy
trauma,
about when this virus came through.
Mhm.
The pandemic killed over 2 million people throughout the course of the 2 years.
Yes.
No one thought to allow that to just go without sort of making sure
Mhm, mhm.
we insulted the expert in that area.
That's right.
We didn't just go to anyone either. Didn't go to celebrities. Didn't go to people who had a lot of money. We wanted to go to someone who had studied that.
Yeah.
And until we understand as African people that ours is just as unique and unprecedented as that virus, because nothing had ever happened to any other people before or after that what happened to us. Now, there's been a lot of enslaved people, but that's why we need to even correct that definition, because we were more than enslaved over those 200 years. The first 200 years, we were stripped of everything, our culture, our heritage, our religion. You don't know any other people. You can't even read biblical history that tells you that a person enslaved was done that way.
Right.
Right. So we so uniquely different, and we got to realize, and then once we understand that, we'll come from that perspective whenever we are dealing with anybody, anywhere. Right. Until we have been studied to see what, and that's not to say we haven't, because some of our people have, but I mean to be studied in some seriousness, in a group, that will be recognized as such, because like I say, Dr. DeGruy wrote the book Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. Then Dr. Francis Cress Wells and Dr. John Henry Clark, all those folks, educators and experts, I call, they have studied. We got to get it together so we let other folks know that we need this special attention.
That's
At
right.
least they begin to think that we are just falling for the okadoke, that we're like everybody else. We come from the same situation. No, we were different from that situation.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry.
I think we always have to remember, Ruby, that we do not have the same constraints. While we have the trauma, we do not have the same constraints, right? So when you're dealing in the arena of politics, this idea that government does not work, this idea that government is not on our side, this idea that government is only for the rich, have forgotten the prelude to the Constitution. We, right, the people, right, of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, induce domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote general welfare, secure the blessing of liberty for ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States. We, at the most part, were excluded.
Yeah.
But we, right, we're not excluded anymore, right? And so we have an obligation to fight. Right, we have an obligation to stand up and speak our piece. Right, but we are so caught up in the trauma of yesterday, which needs to be addressed. Right, I'm not in any way suggesting that trauma is not real or is not impacting our lives today.
Right.
What I'm saying to people is, I do go to work sick sometimes. Right, and not obviously with a cold or anything that was just COVID related, but if I got a serious cut on my arm, I bandage it up. It hurts, but I still go to work. Right, if my leg, right, a friend of mine recently had surgery on his foot. He took off a couple of weeks, got the cast on, and once he got the cast on, he went back to work. So while the trauma is there, it cannot be an excuse not to work.
Right, but what I'm saying is the trauma is not for all of us to concentrate on. See, that's beyond most of our concentration. That's why we got to understand what it is. Then we will think that each one of us need to equally concentrate on. No, just like with your leg hurt, your doctor concentrated on that. You didn't come around for Ruby, because Ruby wouldn't have known how to help you get back there. So I'm saying it's not for all of us to concentrate on, but the few of us who, that's why I call it experts in Africanism. I call myself the amateur, because I know that there's certain people who will be able to get to that and concentrate on it and put it in a perspective, like they did with that virus. You know what I mean? They didn't just have any medical person even concentrating on that. They had special people to concentrate on and let us do what they told us to do. Gave us the virus, gave us the injections and vaccine. We weren't allowed, or they weren't expected to go out there and concentrate on. So why are we as African people going through what we went through, thought of as ones who should concentrate on. No, I just happen to talk about it because that's what my podcast is about. But I don't expect my people. I don't expect my people to be concentrating on that because they wouldn't know what to concentrate on. Half of them don't know that there was a traumatic condition going on 200 years ago, and the ones that know don't know how to get through, deal with it. So no, don't misunderstand me about that. That's why I classify unapologetic amateur, looking for experts in Africanism. That's a certain group of people who will know how to handle what we went through. You know what I'm saying? But
we do have to concentrate on that, right? It's not like, again, coming in this following year at work, we're doing some workshops on language, understanding language and how it stigmatizes people.
Yeah.
How negative the negative use of language can have a paralyzing effect on individuals trying to come into their own.
Yeah.
And so part of that stigma, I think, for us as African Americans, we don't address the issues of slavery and its impact because to some degree we've been, how do I frame this? It's a stigma for us.
Yeah.
We don't want to talk about it because it makes us look weak.
Yeah.
We don't want to talk about it because when we look back at how our fathers were treated, as Eddie Murphy once said, I would never be a slave man if I was there, right? And then all of a sudden he got hit with a whip and he was like, "Oh, massa," right?
A different tune.
So
exactly. That's a lot.
We look at how our ancestors dealt with that as if that was a weakness.
Right.
And that impacts us in terms of our pride.
Yeah.
Right? Our defensive mechanisms that come up anytime that we may be addressed in a way where we think we have to stand up for ourselves, even if we're wrong. Right? I ain't no punk. Right? That's where that comes from. So we always got to deal with and continue to seek out those experts who can talk to us about the issues that continue to plague us, even though we are unaware.
Yeah, unaware.
Right.
You said it because we as people, human beings, not just us, we just happen to be in a particular situation, but we as human beings, in particular us, we don't look beyond our circumstances. We see what our circumstances are. We see that we're behind in education, we're behind in health, we're behind in wealth, and we sometimes then reverse and put it on us. Well, we're lazy.
Yeah.
Well, how can we be lazy when we build a country? So we don't see beyond that. We don't see beyond our circumstance. We just know what we see. That's not for us to do, though. That's what this podcast is trying to convince. We need a group of people who's studying us the same as that virus was studying and come back to give us some solution. I contend that, I've always said, it's going to be the faith-based. It's going to be the historian. It's going to be the psychologist.
That's right.
Because we are very faith-based people, and we know without God we wouldn't be anybody.
That's right. Yeah.
With the historian, that way they'll know where we came from and what happened to us through the passage and what happening now.
Yeah, right.
Then the psychologist who will be able to go into the depths of our souls and our brain and our whatever and come up with some answers about why we are acting like Clarence Thomas, why we are acting like Candy Owen, why we are acting you know what I'm saying? Why we are acting like these black men who talking about voting for that number 45. It's got to be a reason. See, it's not an excuse. In my book, I talk about these two expressions, excuse and explanation. We can't have excuses because, let's put it this way, excuses when you're born at a white privilege. You ain't got no excuse because it was there for you. I don't care where you came from, you could have wiped yourself off and became president. Ours is explanation only because we don't know what the excuse will be. So we can say explanation. That doesn't mean we're going to allow you to get away with whatever. It means that you define yourself differently. That way people will respect you differently. If people know that you don't make excuses, we don't make excuses. We make explanations about how we have been treated because you never studied us to know if it's an excuse or an explanation.
But in the end, it comes back to my daughter's question. when are they going to fix it? Right? If we're going to talk politics, right, then let's be clear that politics really, in its raw definition, is interaction amongst people.
That's right. That's right.
That's what politics is.
Right, right.
I do politics every day. I do politics with my family. I politic with my job. I politic with my friends, right? I want this, you want that. How do we compromise?
Yeah.
Right? The only time I get misused and abused is when I don't bring my thoughts, ideas, whatever it is I want to the table, and I'm just following someone else.
Right. That's a good point.
Right? If I want to be if I want to be engaged in politics in my relationships, then I have to be clear in my relationships what my needs are.
That's right.
If I'm politicking at work, I have to be clear with my job what my needs are, because they're definitely being clear what their needs are.
That's right.
We need you to be at work at 8. We need you to do this. We need you to get off at 4. We need, right? They're very clear about what
We
their
just don't
issues
know
are.
what our needs are sometimes because of the clatter and the clutter and all thing, everything
And that's
else
true.
that's been pushed on
Right.
us.
And that's
we
very
don't
true.
always know what our needs are. You know, we think it's the same as anyone else, and we're not getting it. We think that it's our fault. We didn't do what this person did. And why would we, as human beings, want the same as anyone else? So that should alert us right from the beginning. And we see we're not in a position that other people, something should tell you, hey, goes further than what you see.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's true. But I think the point I'm getting to is you have to be careful while that is real. The ignorance of that trauma is real. The ignorance of what to do is real. But as Michelle Obama said at the conference last week,
Yeah.
you got to do something.
Do
Oh,
something.
definitely. And
Do
look,
something.
the great
You
thing
cannot
do
sit
something.
on the sidelines.
That's right, my brother. Think about our situation.
something.
We have been doing something. That's another thing we can't miss.
Yeah.
Had we
Well, your
not
contribution
been,
to the work
right. Oh my
is
goodness.
necessary.
Yeah, we have been
Because
doing
it helps
something.
people understand some of the feelings
Yeah.
that they have
That's right.
You are doing
where
something.
they don't know where they're coming from.
Right.
Like some people are completely removed from the understanding of how slavery has impacted us.
Right.
They have bought into this
That's right. Yeah.
social, if not white, idea that what has happened was done by their fathers
Yes,
and that it shouldn't affect us.
Yeah.
That's the past.
Like, listen, you might not have done it, right? But what has happened over these 400 years or so
Right.
is still a reality for me.
Yes, and we have been doing so much as a people. Had we not coming out of that situation, have done what we've done, unlike any other human being I imagine in the world, where did we come? Think about where we came from.
come a
They
mighty long
stripped
way.
us of
Long way,
everything, and here the president, a potential president of the United States, looking in our face.
That's right.
We had a black president before, Obama. We've done so many things. We've created so many things. So we have
But
done.
we are very careful, though, to understand that Kamala, or Kamala, I get her name wrong sometimes. Kamala
Yeah.
is not going to get there with hopes and dreams.
That's right. That's a good point.
She's going to get there with people moving past their trauma
That's right.
and understanding they got to vote.
Yeah,
Right?
That's right.
Now in New Jersey, where almost it's sure. Hold on, my battery's running out. Let me plug it up. Hold on.
Okay. In the meantime, I'll be talking to my folks who look.
Yes.
I
Do
don't see my
something.
people.
Do something.
Yes, I don't see my people. I know they're calling in.
Yeah, we know they're out there,
They're
and
out
they
there, and I
know that
appreciate
they've,
you. I
been
really
supporting
do.
us. You know,
Yeah, but in the
subscriptions have
meantime,
increased, and we thank you so much for that.
yes, yeah, because we depend on you. We look forward to you. We want to call all out to you. We just so grateful that
We'll
we
keep on bringing you the information that you need to
exactly.
make the best choices for yourself, because politics
Exactly.
is about knowing what you want, why you want it, and also how you can get it.
Yeah,
So whatever that
exactly.
means to you, please please work on that.
Yes,
And here's our
okay.
people.
Yeah,
The roll
Sheila,
call.
a roll call. Juanita, assalamu alaikum, watching and listening. Juanita, Robert Cabbage Stout, we're watching. Lula, we're watching. Sheila Bird, we're Lloyd Shop, hello everyone. Walter, the old deck, all the way in California.
Oh, wow, for
All
California.
right, now if you put your, just keep going up because someone will tell me I didn't call their name. It's not being for those of you who are still on and I didn't call you, forgive me. I don't.
And we appreciate you.
Always appreciate you so much because that's what we do. Try to bring the information. As I said, we will perish for lack of it, and the information that we're bringing you will hopefully just the true information, not just any information, because you get a lot of information out there that's just not what it should be. But we're talking about information that can't be disputed, you know, and we're just hoping that the podcast.
Sorry about that.
Okay, good. Your guest is back on.
Yeah.
Thank you. You can go on to what you had to say.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't realize my computer was low battery.
Yeah, that's okay.
But I was saying that,
Acknowledge it for you. It does happen.
right, in regards to the conversation of politics, you got to vote.
Oh,
Right.
definitely.
We are having voting machines down at Kane University
Okay.
during the month of September,
That's great.
talking to individuals about voting, right, about the power of the vote. And, I talk to some of my family members who are sometimes reluctant to vote
Yeah.
because they feel that at some level their vote doesn't matter. And I would say, and I constantly say to them, you can't take that position,
No, you
right?
can't.
You have to
Can't afford to lose.
engage, right? When we think of the people who gave their lives,
Yeah.
right? Who at 20, at 30, at 40 gave their life,
So we would be able to vote.
right?
Yes.
The most generous act of humankind is to give your life for someone else. And when you
For a
see,
cause, yeah.
or when we understand our history in this slavery, Jim Crow, right, atmosphere where we were held back from that,
That's right.
and people stood up and said, I'm going to die so that you can exercise that right.
Yeah.
That's right.
We have an obligation to them
Yeah.
to exercise that right. I mean, and it's sad that in 2024, no one can really conceive giving their life for the benefit of someone 20 years from now.
Yeah.
You can't even fathom that.
And it's not about love. You know, you hear that, well, neither one loves you. It's not about love. You're looking for love in all the wrong places. It's about you to trying to defend that which you can, which is defendable. So if you got a person in that's a dictator, you don't have a chance
No.
to defend. But if you do
No
have the
chance,
other
no choice.
group, you might be then able to work with them through whatever method you have
That's right,
to
right.
change a situation.
That's true.
It's so clear this time. Other times that might not been as clear. When you had a legitimate Republican Party, a legitimate Democrat, it's not about the
it's
parties
different now.
anymore.
Yeah.
It's about the democracy you're trying to save.
Well,
or so
right
on.
now, and that's if people are actually following. See, also you have to remember that people operate within their corners, right? You go to Republican states, there's a Republican conversation. You go to Democratic states, there is a Democratic conversation. And often when that is imposed upon by an outside ideology or philosophy, automatically we take like offense, like what's going on. And so I look at a lot of the people who are Republican, who are engaged in this, to me, craziness
Yeah,
about
it's no
voting for a
more-
guy like Trump.
Yeah, it's no more.
I also have to
Republican
remember that they are constantly bombarded with the
George.
Republican ideology. And so
just wanna
I try to be
holler this out.
careful.
Misinformation. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to holler this out. I'm watching Jabbar, Joy Jackson from California. I just wanted to holler that out because sometimes I don't always see them. And they say, you don't call? I say, yeah, but I'm trying to. Okay, I'm so sorry, my brother.
That's all right. Before we close, because I know time is getting
Yeah,
close,
time is of the
I want to address my juniorship
Okay.
with Brother Terry over there, because you see I'm growing my beard,
I
Terry,
see that.
and
That's
I'm
good.
kind of coming on board with you, my brother.
Yes.
You know,
Welcome to the club.
We're so grateful to have you here, brother.
manliness
Grayson with us, please. We're going to be calling you again because you got so much information
Yes, my
for us.
brother.
But for
Yes,
you
my
guys out there, you girls out there, please always think to vote. You got to vote this time. I tell you, it's a matter of I don't know. But can't go back. We can't go back.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. Listen. If we can talk about this more, I don't know what your platforms are for the next few weeks, but we do need to talk about the upcoming election.
Okay.
We do need to talk about not only the presidential election.
Right.
We don't want to get so caught up in the presidential election that we forget what's going on in the elections that are happening in our particular communities, right?
Mostly.
Council people who don't have us on their agenda,
Most
mayors
important.
that may not necessarily have us on their agenda.
Okay, well, we're going to
It's
talk
not
about it. We're
just
going to have
fighting for Kamala.
Right.
It's fighting for your local
community
establishment, for your
also.
local
We're going to
community.
have you back.
Yeah,
we
we
gotta
gotta have
go,
you
we
back,
gotta
brother.
go,
Gotta
we
have
gotta
you
go.
back.
But it's
All right, I'm sorry I was late.
That's,
My bad.
That's all right.
that's how we're going to have you
But
back.
you're on time now.
Yeah.
We'll speak to
on
you
time.
soon.
Okay, goodbye.
All right.
Take care.
All right. God bless.
God bless.
Love you both. All right.
Love you. Take care, brother.
All right.